Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Korra news update video. And this one I'm going to cover the first extra day unlock for the Korra Pro Bending Arena game Kickstarter. So this is day 2 of the campaign. The campaign at this stage is completely funded, I think almost 3 times over. They're more than tripled their goal at this stage. I don't think quite tripled it, but they're getting there. They will absolutely get to triple. And yeah, we get the first reveal, and we get our first group of new figures, our first new team specifically. So as you can see, it says here, welcome the Red Sands Rabaroos. So as I kind of predicted, a couple of these reveals are going to be other pro bending teams. It's not just going to be a case of them adding in a bunch of other random characters. It looks like they will do that in the remaining days. Some of them will be just characters and not necessarily pro benders. But I think it was a good idea to have the first group be a team. And I think very kind of knowledgeable of them to actually, yes, give us the team that we actually know the most about. That's not the Fire Ferrets or the Wolf Bats. And that is the Rabaroos. So we know this team, of course, because they fought the Fire Ferrets during the Pro Bending competition back in Book 1. They were, I think, the first team the Fire Ferrets defeated in the proper tournament after the qualifying rounds. So they defeated them in the round of 16 of that tournament to get into the quarterfinals. And the unique thing about this team is, of course, that they're an all-female team, the only all-female bending team, pro bending team at this stage. And they make up Adi the Firebender, Ula the Earthbender, and Umi the Waterbender. And there's their logo, of course, a Rabaroo, the animal, and they are called the Red Sands Rabaroos because Red Sands refers to Red Sands Island, which is an island we don't know the exact location of, but we assume it's somewhere close to Republic City, like it's not too far away from Republic City, and it realistically is one of the Fire Islands. So it is probably one of the furthest out islands on the Fire Nation, because obviously the Fire Nation is primarily made up of a group of islands kind of linked together. So it's probably one of the islands that's closest to the Earth Kingdom United Republic. Because of course Adi, we assume, is the captain of the team. It seems like she is, because in the show they kind of present her as being in the middle. And if she's the captain, it would make sense that they kind of name the team after her hometown, which is probably on Red Sands Island. So that's really cool, just as an explanation for the team. Now, of course, that's all me and my kind of knowledge of the stuff. They don't really give us extra information on the team in terms of adding to the story or the lore. What they cover here is what you get, which obviously is that you get the 3 minifigures, which you can see here, the team board, which is this thing here, 36 technique cards, so obviously you get some for Adi, some for Ula, some for Umi, and then 6 universal trick cards usable by any team. And then it just gives some detail, the Red Sands Rabaroos, known on the pro bending circuit for their teamwork, the all-female, all-amazing Rabaroos coordinate to unleash a rapid-fire flurry of elemental attacks. Adi, whatever. Adi, Ula, and Umi are guaranteed to bring you to your feet with their lightning fast bending. It's always action-packed when the Rabaroos are in the arena. There's a cleaner look at the figures there, and they're really nicely sculpted. I think, like most of them are. Could use a bit of paint though. I think that's going to be a running complaint with this whole thing. But they look really nice. The only problem, of course, is that with these as characters, we don't really know anything specific about them. In that, oh, does this pose represent their bending style? Well, we don't really know their bending style all that well. They just seem to emphasize them as a team with good teamwork, and that they're lightning fast. That's the main things about them. Which makes sense in that their 2 abilities are Rally and Blitz, which, Rally, teamwork, Blitz, fast, makes sense. And they just go over some of the game mechanics and how it relates to, the team as well. There's a better look at their card, which I think is really nicely done. Red Sands, Rabaroos, there's their team kind of, their place logo, and so on. Adi in the middle, makes sense because she's probably the captain. There's some of the cards, the trick cards, the generic trick cards. And yeah, so that's it for more or less. That's the coverage of this as an update. Of course, if you get the only way to get this team is as part of the Kickstarter. This won't be included in the retail release much later on. So if you want the Rabaroos, you have to back the project before the 30th of September. But yeah, so for the rest of this video, like I kind of did in my video yesterday covering the initial reveals, I'm going to do some further speculation on what I think the other kind of reveals will be. So if we go back to the main campaign page and get to the section where they cover basically what's still left. So there's the main details. So day 1, day 2, they're already covered. Day 3 is just going to be some of the extra, universal trick cards. There probably won't be anything particularly unique on these days, I don't think anyway. So I probably won't be doing a video tomorrow to cover this update. But day 4 for sure I'll do a video to cover it, because I think this is going to be the day 4, which is going to be on Saturday. This is going to be the day where I think we get some new information we haven't got before. Because obviously with the Rabaroos, we knew the name of the team, we knew the name of all 3 members. There's no new information there really. But the thing is that now we've suddenly run out of characters that we know. We only really know the name of one other Pro Bender in terms of active. And that's Chang from the Porcupines, who's the Earthbender on the Porcupines. And then we know that Toza used to be on the Porcupines, who was the Earthbender before Chang, but he's obviously retired, and I don't think one of the figures is going to be Toza. So it brings up the question of these groups. Clearly some of these other ones are going to be Pro Bending teams. So we're going to get other Pro Bending teams, and the question is, what are the other teams that we get? The Rabaroos made sense as the first one because we knew the name of the team, we knew the name of all 3 members, but now all of a sudden we don't know the 3 members of any other team. But we know of a lot of other Pro Bending teams. So I'll bring up the wiki page just so it's really clear, so you can see the name of all these teams. Most of these ones, the ones that don't have a link, that don't have a page, they were added in the Legend of Korra video game, because there is a kind of separate Pro Bending mode. It's like a tournament mode that introduces all these extra ones, like Bossing Say Badger Moles, Makapu Moose Lions, and so on. And then the ones that actually have a page for them, they are the teams that actually were focused upon to some degree within the show. So most of them were opponents at some stage of the Fire Ferrets, and then I think it's the Mose Mongoose Lizards are the only team that we get any sort of focus on that the Wolf Bats beat. So the Mose Mongoose Lizards were the team that basically at the end of episode 5, as the Fire Ferrets qualified for the finals, it was revealed that the Wolf Bats beat their opponent team really easily and injured them, and these are the team that they ended up injuring. So this is probably the team I don't think that we'll get any focus on. I just think there's very little chance that they'll make figures of the Mose Mongoose Lizards. So I'd almost take them out right now because there's not the greatest connection to them. So they've already done the Wolf Bats, they've already done the Rabaroos in terms of the ones that have links to them that are in the show and aren't video games. So that leaves the Pinnacle Palace Platypus Bears. I don't think they'll do the Mongoose Lizards, as I said. There's the Tiger Dillos, the Fire Ferrets are done, the Buzzard Wasps, and as I mentioned already, the Porcupines. I think the team that is very obvious that they will do, I think they'll do the Porcupines for sure, because we do know the name of the Earthbender on the team, who's Chang. So I think they will absolutely do the Porcupines. If we open up their page, just so you guys are clear on which team the Porcupines actually are. So yeah, you can see them here. So, they're famous for being the longest reigning champions of the Pro Bending tournament. And then they lost their, they lost their thing to another team. And yeah, so this is obviously the team that we had one of the bigger fights up against. That this was where Bolane had his big moment where he defeated the, he defeated Chang basically in the one-on-one match. So this is a pretty cool team that they went up against. And I think it'd be really, really cool if the next team that's revealed in the game is the Porcupines, because we know Chang. All they have to do is reveal the name of the Firebender and the Waterbender on this team, and then just put up a logo for the team. And I think that's cool. That's cool new information, at least for me anyway. Just that, like, a character that we saw in the show for a couple of minutes in a fight, they now have a name. I hope that they asked Mike and Brian, or they got someone on board, that we get canon names for these other characters. And the Porcupines, I think, make the most sense to be the other team. So I'd say almost day 4, like, you kind of has to be the Porcupines as the next most notable pro bending team that we see. So that's that. Day 5, more cards. I'm not sure if there's going to be anything unique about them. Day 6 is going to be an interesting one, and I think that's Pali. I think that kind of has to be Pali. Just the color that they've gone for there, the red lotus symbol very clearly in the background. I think it's just one figure though, as we can see here from the fact that there's only one of these logos where they usually put the characters in. So that's going to be interesting to see how Pali adds to the game or not, if it is Pali. Day 7 is just other cards. Day 8 I'll come back to, because obviously they don't list like the character symbol here. So it's not really clear if you get 5 figures on this day. It seems like it's a secret, and I'll get back to it, but I think that is a kind of extra expansion to the game. That's actually going to be this kind of separate thing, that if you play using those figures, the rules are different, and I'll come back to that. Day 9 is going to be the next pro bending team. Again, you can sort of tell if they're pro bending teams because of the shape of their heads. They're all sort of square because they have the pro bending head protection on. So we've covered already that I think that the Porcupines are the next most notable team, that they will absolutely, I think, do them as figures. So then who's left? There's the Buzzard Wasps, there's the Tiger Dillos, then there's the Platypus Bears in terms of groups that I think are actually possible. So the Tiger Dillos, I think I'd put lowest on the tier, because they are a team that were from the preliminary rounds. They were before the actual proper tournament started. So I think they'll either do the Buzzard Wasps or the Platypus Bears as the next team. So as like a team number 5 overall. The Buzzard Wasps, I think, make the most sense to be the next one, because they sort of, in commentary against this team, kind of hype them up as like they're kind of like the closest in team makeup to the Fire Ferrets, as it says here in the Avatar Wiki thing. According to Shiro Shinobi, it was hard to find 2 more evenly matched teams than them because they mirrored each other in age, size, and strength. So I think it would make sense to just have a cool team that's very similar to the Fire Ferrets, but kind of has a slightly different elemental makeup in terms of like who's who and so on. And they seem sort of unique. Like Buzzard Wasp seems like a really cool thing they could do a logo for. And then again, it's a team where I think one of the members of the team is a female. So yeah, the Firebender I think is a girl on this team. So getting the names for all of these characters would be a really cool little thing to do. And they make the most sense to come as like the next team. So I think they make a little bit more sense than, say, the Platypus Bears, who you know, primarily were just there as like, they're the team that Korra went up against in her first pro bending match, whereas the other team, which I kind of skipped past a bit, the Tiger Dillos. The Tiger Dillos were the team that the Fire Ferrets fought when Hasuk was still on the team. So Korra basically hears this match on the radio, and because of that, because like Korra's not really connected as such to this match, I'm not sure if they'll do the Tiger Dillos. So I think, you know, the other teams will be the Buzzard Wasps, the Platypus Bears, and the Porcupines. I think they make the most sense to be the other, you know, 3 teams in addition to the Rabaroos. So if we get there, like, I think they're realistically maybe day 9 they'll reveal the Buzzard Wasps. Day 10 more cards. Day 11 looks like another pro bending team. If it is another pro bending team, I'm not sure though. I'm not sure if you can actually guarantee that these are for sure other pro benders. They could do a different type of team. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, the silhouette for their symbol looks like it has wings on it. This could be the Buzzard Wasps. I think that this team here could actually be the Buzzard Wasps, just because there's the wing almost symbol. Platypus Bears, I don't think they'd have a little bit sticking out like that. Porcupines, again, because it's kind of pines. I don't know if they do that. Then if they wanted to choose one of the other team, badger moles, cat gators, eel hounds, hog monkeys, rhinos, lion vultures, moose lions, ostrich horses, rhino lion zebra frogs. Yeah, I think buzzard wasps makes the most sense to go there, just because the silhouette is a little bit different there. So then, if we say that that's the case, then this team with the fan shaped, and then now that I'm looking at this, they did do the whole Red Sands thing, so we can maybe figure some of this out. So what have they got in the background? That symbol in the background, does that relate to any of the other teams? Baoling, Pinnacle Palace, Black Quarry. It's hard to tell actually with the symbols. That one, it's hard to tell. It just looks like a cloud almost in the background here. Does that relate to Baoling, Pinnacle Palace, Black Quarry? I'm not sure. Yeah, it could just be generic symbols for these other characters. But yeah, like as I said, buzzard wasps, platypus bears, porcupines, they're my picks for the other pro bending teams. I think day 13 is going to be Kuvira. Day 15, I think now, is probably Unalaq, actually. I think that makes sense. If they want to go with like a villain from each book as a different thing. And then going back to day 8, I think what they're going to do with day 8 is make this kind of like an expansion to the game. Where like Amon is probably like a special type of figure where like you could maybe use him as a waterbender if you want, but you can also use him as a non-bender figure. And maybe they'll introduce a lot of different types of characters here, maybe characters who use weapons, or maybe this is where they'll introduce some of the extra characters who aren't pro benders, and maybe have some different rules that relate to them. That's why this is like 5 figures, and it looks like you get an extra box. It looks like an extra box that you get here. So this is probably like an extra like Equalist Revolution add-on or something like that. That's my prediction anyway. So yeah, I think I'm going to end the video there. They're my predictions for what I think the other pro bending teams will be. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on which teams you think they'll choose. Do you agree with me, or do you think they'll do some of the other teams? What are your predictions, basically? So yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.